Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, if you ever need a reminder that our planet is this terrifying but also beautiful and constantly changing place.
Look no further.
Exactly. Look no further than what we're diving into today. We are exploring Earth's engine room. Volcanoes. I mean, the sources call them nature's most powerful sculptors, which feels right.
It's the perfect description. It's this incredible duality. You know, they create and destroy, sometimes in the same breath. And the sources really remind us that the power just simmering beneath the surface is, well, it's extraordinary.
So that's our mission for this deep dive.
Right. We want to go beyond that, that postcard image of a perfect cone and really unpack the mechanics, the what, the where, and the why of these geological giants.
And balance the threats with benefits.
The serious threats with the remarkable life-giving benefits.
Okay, so let's start at ground zero. When we talk about a volcano, what are we actually talking about on a technical level?
We're talking about a natural opening, a vent. It's basically an escape route in the Earth's crust.
An escape route for what?
For molten rock, which we call magma when it's still deep underground. It forces its way up to the surface, and it brings ash and gases along with it.
And that's what causes the eruption, that pressure.
Precisely. When that pressure becomes too great, it erupts. And that whole process is what builds everything from, vast, gentle lava fields to those towering, classic volcanic mountains we all picture.
And these pressure points, they're not just random spots on the globe.
Oh, not at all. If you look at the maps and the sources, you can see they cluster. They show up in three main geological settings.
The big one being the Ring of Fire.
The most famous one, absolutely. It's along the borders of tectonic plates, where they either collide or pull apart. We call them plate boundaries. That's why you get this massive concentration of activity all around the Pacific.
It really does look a great planetary scene. But then you have places like Hawaii, which are sort of out in the middle of nowhere, geologically speaking.
Right, and those are the exceptions that really prove the rule. They form over what we call hotspots.
Okay, what's a hotspot?
Think of it as a kind of stationary blowtorch deep in the mantle that just burns through the crust above it. The plate slowly moves over this spot, and you get a chain of islands.
Fascinating. And the location actually changes how the volcano behaves.
Hugely. The location dictates the style. Plate boundary volcanoes are often really explosive, whereas hotspot volcanoes, like in Hawaii, are typically much more effusive. They just flow.
Which brings us perfectly to their diversity.
Yeah.
Because we have that classic image in our head, but they come in all these different shapes and sizes.
And their shape, their architecture, tells you everything about their personality, about the lava that built them.
So their shape is their history.
It's a direct result of their history, yes.
Yeah.
We generally group them into four main types based on how they erupt and what they're made of.
Let's start with the big, gentle ones, like in Hawaii.
Those are the shield volcanoes. If you picture a warrior's shield lying flat on the ground, that's the shape. They're incredibly broad with very gentle slopes.
Because the lava is really runny.
Exactly. It's incredibly fluid, fast-moving lava, so it just spreads out for miles instead of stacking up. Mauna Loa is the classic, enormous example.
Okay, so then you have the total opposite, the ones that actually look like the drawing in a textbook.
That would be the stratovolcano, or composite volcano. These are the tall, steep, really dramatic-looking ones, the ones you'd call a mountain.
And they're built differently.
Completely. They're built up layer by alternating layer of thick, viscous lava, then ash, then fragmented rock. And critically, these are the volcanoes famous for their highly explosive eruptions.
So like Mount Fuji or Vesuvius.
The legendary Mount Vesuvius, yes. A perfect and terrifying example.
Then you have the smaller ones. The sources mention these almost temporary structures.
Right, the cinder cone volcanoes.
Yeah.
They're usually small, steep, and they don't last very long, geologically speaking. They're just loose, cone-shaped piles of volcanic debris cinders that get thrown out during these short, mildly explosive bursts.
And there was a great story about one of those.
Paracutin in Mexico. It literally grew out of a farmer's cornfield over just 9 years.
9 years, from nothing to a volcano. That's incredible. Okay, what's the fourth type?
The fourth are lava domes. This is what happens when the magma is so thick and sticky, so viscous that it can barely flow at all.
So it just oozes out?
It just piles up right around the vent. It creates this big, rounded, almost bulbous dome. A perfect illustration is what happened after Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980. A new lava dome started growing right inside the crater, just this thick, slow-moving buildup.
That detail, the stickiness of the lava, feels really important because it leads to the core question. Why does a volcano go from a gentle flow to a catastrophic explosion?
It all comes down to pressure. It's pure physics. Magma rises simply because it's less dense than the solid rock around it.
It's lighter, so it floats up.
Right. And as it gets closer to the surface, the pressure drops. When that happens, the gases that were dissolved in the magma-like water vapor, carbon dioxide, start to bubble out and expand.
Like opening a can of soda.
That is the perfect analogy. And that expanding gas is the engine. It's the driving force.
But if it's all just expanding gas, why isn't every eruption the same? Why does Kilauea just ooze, but Vesuvius, blows its top?
This is where we connect the dots. The single most critical factor is the magma's viscosity.
How thick or sticky it is.
Exactly. And that stickiness is determined by, the sources point to four things. Its chemical makeup, especially the silica content, its temperature, and the amount of gas and pressure involved.
So how does viscosity translate to danger?
Okay, so if the magma has low viscosity, it's very fluid, like warm syrup, the gas bubbles can escape easily.
No pressure buildup.
Right, and that gives you a relatively gentle, effusive eruption, the kind you see with shield volcanoes.
But if it's sticky?
If the magma has high viscosity, it's thick, like peanut butter, those expanding gas bubbles get trapped. They can't escape, so the pressure builds and builds and builds until the rock above just can't contain it anymore. A devastatingly explosive eruption. It throws ash and rock miles into the atmosphere. So that one difference, that stickiness, determines the entire personality and the hazard level of a volcano.
It makes that duality even more dramatic. They're capable of such incredible destruction, but they're also vital. Let's talk about the upside first. The benefits.
The benefits are enormous, and they literally feed us. The first one is just incredibly fertile land, volcanic ash and lava weather down into soil that is unbelievably rich in minerals.
It's great for farming.
Unparalleled for farming. You think about the amazing rice paddies in Indonesia or the vineyards all around Mount Etna and Vesuvius in Italy. That's no accident.
And they also, they create the land itself.
They literally create land, new land formation. It's not just that they built entire island chains like Hawaii. Active volcanoes are still expanding coastlines today. You can watch geology happen in real time.
Then there's the heat.
Geothermal energy. All that heat from magma chambers close to the surface can be tapped. It can be used to generate clean, renewable electricity.
Like in Iceland.
Iceland is the poster child for this. They sit right on a plate boundary and power a huge portion of their country this way.
And finally, the stuff they leave behind.
The valuable minerals. Beyond basic construction materials like basalt and pumice, volcanic processes concentrate all sorts of high-value minerals, even precious metals.
Okay, now for the pivot to the scary part. The hazards are immediate, and they're often unavoidable.
And they are swift and diverse. The most obvious threat is the lava flow, which, it destroys everything in its path, but it's often slow enough for people to get away.
The ash clouds can be a bigger problem, right?
Yeah.
On a global scale.
For sure. We all saw that in 2010. They can shut down air travel across entire continents and cause serious breathing problems for people downwind.
But the truly deadly threats are the fast-moving ones, the ones you can't escape.
Absolutely. The most lethal are pyroclastic flows. They're superheated mixtures of gas, ash, and rock that can race downhill at hundreds of miles per hour. They incinerate everything.
And then there are the mud flows.
The lahars. A lahar is basically a volcanic mud flow. It's this fast-moving slurry of ash and water that has the consistency of wet concrete. It can travel for dozens of miles and just bury entire towns.
Which underscores why monitoring is so critical.
It's our only real defense. Scientists track everything. Tiny earthquakes, any swelling on the volcano's flanks, changes in the gases it's emitting. That monitoring is what gives us a heads up and gives communities time to evacuate.
Let's make this real with a quick tour of some of the famous volcanoes you see in the sources. We can start in Italy.
Mount Etna. It's one of the most consistently active volcanoes in the world. It gives us these frequent, beautiful flows. It's kind of a mix between shield and stratovolcano behavior.
And the gentle giant we keep mentioning.
That's Kilauea in Hawaii, the quintessential shield volcano. It's known for these constant, effusive flows of low-viscosity lava that are always adding new land to the island.
And then the iconic American catastrophe.
Mount St. Helens, famous for that devastating 1980 eruption. It was a perfect example of what happens when pressure from sticky, high-viscosity magma builds up and is released explosively.
And finally, the one that reminded everyone just how far-reaching the effects can be.
Eyjafjallajökull in Iceland. Its 2010 eruption wasn't actually that big, but it produced so much fine ash that, combined with the weather patterns, it shut down European airspace for weeks. A reminder that one geologic event can have massive global consequences.
So when we synthesize all this, the mechanics, the shapes, this incredible dual impact, what's the big takeaway for you?
The takeaway is that volcanoes are so much more than just mountains that sometimes explode. They're a fundamental driving force of our planet's evolution.
Right.
They destroy, yes, but they are fundamentally creators. They create the conditions for new life, they give us rich soils, clean energy, and the very ground we stand on. They're essential.
So studying them helps us understand our planet, but it also teaches us how to coexist with these incredible forces.
Exactly. It's the ultimate calculation of risk versus reward.
Which leaves us with a final question for you to think about. Knowing the immense fundamental benefits that volcanoes provide, the fertile land, new territory, renewable energy, how much risk is a society willing to accept to live near these centers of creation? And maybe more specifically, should we be focusing all our monitoring efforts on the steep, sticky stratovolcanoes over the gentle shield volcanoes?